Hi, I'm Tom Laux, City of Marshfield's Communications Director, and this is our council preview. And today we have Steve Barg, City Administrator. Thanks for coming.
Good to be here with you, Tom.
Alrighty, council takes place here on Tuesday, and this is a Wednesday. We're taping this May 14th. So please listen to what we have to say, and then we're going to go through the agenda and give you a sneak peek here. Peek. I had this cold, so I'll try to get through it here the best I can. And
those are tough to shake sometimes,
yeah,
aren't they?
it is. And your shirt's dry from the rain. We're good to go. It still feels like winter out there at this point.
Wow, yeah, in the 40s today, and we're in May.
Yeah, in May. So, all right. Well, let's talk about one of the items on the agenda, Gordy Earl. We gave him kind of a go away, but he may come back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gordy's been such a faithful servant, spending a decade on the council, and it's been a long road, this whole Police and Fire Commission appointment. Just to catch people up if they weren't with us before, the suggestion was made by the mayor that he was going to replace Nate Miller with Marissa Steinbach, and the council voted not in favor of that, so now the mayor, as the code would ask for, is coming back with a second appointment for their consideration. It's going to be Gordy Earl, who, as you were suggesting, has been a pretty familiar face to the city of Marshfield. He's been on the council for a decade. He's been involved in many committees and city activities. Really somebody who cares about the community. And he's always been involved and interested in police and fire commission matters. So his name will be forward for council approval on Tuesday night. And if he's appointed, he'll serve at their first meeting in June.
All right. So just so I understand and our viewers understand here, Steve, when you're saying appointed, the mayor does it or the council?
It's interesting. The mayor makes appointments subject to approval by the council. If you think about this in the national stage, Tom, it's the president makes somebody as an appointment to the Supreme Court, but still Congress has to ratify that. So, and if Congress doesn't ratify it, well, then the president has to suggest another appointee. That's the same thing here. It doesn't happen very often, but since the initial person suggested was not approved, now the mayor had to find somebody else, and he's gone to a long-time city individual in Gordy Earl. If the council were to reject this appointment, the mayor would have to come back again at a future meeting with another suggested idea.
All right. Great. Well, a show later, I want to actually talk about how that structure works, and maybe that'd be something separate from council preview down the road. So hopefully I can bring that to you guys' attention as viewers of our channel here on Marshfield Media Access. Well, let's talk about another budget resolution on the TIF District number 7. Josh Miller, our Director of Development Services, is going to be talking about that. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Yeah, sometimes when you talk about TIF districts, you wonder if people on the other end of the camera are still awake. I mean, to really get an explanation of how TIF works is kind of detailed. In this case, though, Tom, when you set up a TIF district, you have so many years to spend money and then collect it on taxes. So after you've spent all the money you're going to spend, you still have another 5 years, in some cases more, for recouping your investment. The idea is that you put in sewer and water and street, and then when people build, you get the taxes back that pay back your investment. So the deadline for us to spend money in TIF District number 7, which is effectively our industrial area of town, is May 22nd of this year. Well, that's coming up real fast. That's about 2 weeks from now. So this is really our last council meeting to do this. So what we want to do is get council to approve a resolution transferring roughly $300,000. It'll go from a city account to our bank, Citizen State Bank of Loyal. We put in a separate account, and it's for projects that have already been embraced. They've already been approved. So it meets the state law. We've got signed on the dotted line that we're going to do these things with these people, but we can't spend the money with them yet. We can't repay them for what they do to make their projects happen. So we need to have it in a separate account. We can pay from there and get these improvements. And I would say that these are good improvements. One of them in particular, Innovative Machine Specialist, is going to be doing a substantial addition out there in the park, and we're glad to be part of that. More jobs, more tax base. So Yellowstone Industrial Park hasn't developed as quickly as some people might have thought, but it's doing well, and it's good to see new improvement coming in now.
All right. Well, hopefully we can go out there once we get the studio together and actually get some images to show you what we're talking about, to see what District 7 looks like. That's something I would like to do. I love going out into the community and getting to see what we're talking about.
Oh, that'd be great.
Visual, so.
That'd be great. And adding to that, we're talking now about some more, this might come up when we talk about the CIP in a minute, the Capital Improvement Program, putting aside money to acquire more industrial land, because we're getting down to the point now with the big PCA project recently, where the parcels that are left are not that large. So if somebody calls and says, hey, I want 50 acres, I'm going to bring a great thing to town, we don't have a 50-acre piece. The biggest we have is some other number. So we need to look at acquiring land or getting an option to get land going beyond Yellowstone.
All right. Well, why don't we jump into CIP right now, since we kind of mentioned it. It's at the bottom of our agenda, page 2. Capital Improvement Program, something, it's a bit different than you've done in the past. I'm here, it's first for me, for this 2020 and 2024. Is that part of what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, it is. It's a 5-year capital improvement program. And just to set this up a little bit, because I don't think we talked about this last time when we met. This is the second of our big financial documents. The biggest, of course, is the annual budget. When we adopt an annual budget, it says that for my department administration, we're going to spend money on these things. And if I come along later and say, you know what, I didn't really think about this, but we really need to spend $10,000 on this other thing instead. But you know, we're going to save $10,000 here because we don't have to do X, Y, Z anymore. Well, the city citizens, when they look at the budget, it's approved, they have the right to know that these are really the things we're going to spend money on. We can't just say, well, throw that out the window and let's start over. So we have to do what's called a budget resolution, and we just talked about that. That's where we were planning on spending it here, but it's more important to spend it here. We need council approval. It needs to be published in the newspaper. Citizens can come and talk about it. The CIP, Capital Improvement Program, is more of a framework or a guideline. Think of it like a map. And sometimes when you're going from here to Oshkosh, you might go this way, but you might veer over and go that way, ultimately. It's a 5-year guidebook to where we say, in the next 5 years, here's where we plan to spend the money. And you've got one of these in front of you. It's airport, cemetery, development services, fire and rescue department, law enforcement, public works. That's a really big one, all the street projects. It totals up to be about $44 million in the next 5 years. And so we decided to change the process this year. We used to have a committee of people, including a plan commission member and a citizen, who would go through all this and make the recommendations. Well, it was hard because sometimes those folks didn't even know what they were looking at. Great people, but we decided, Dan Cadet came up with a great idea, and Dan totally drove this process to change it and make it more staff-driven, and then have council to have some work sessions apart from regular meetings to delve into it, hear staff and say, yep, that makes sense. Why are we spending $50,000 on that? Oh, to fix up that road, great. And then have council approval later on. Well, the meeting on May 2nd, and I think you might have been there, went so well that the May 9th meeting has been canceled, and what's going to happen here on the 14th is we're just going to get the council to approve the plan. And again, this is not in stone. We may come back to the council next year and say, you know what, we said that this street was going to be done in 2021, but you know what, there's a few more that need it worse now. We'd like to back that up to 2023. So it's a fluid document that we tweak, if you will, from year to year.
So we'll conduct a meeting almost every year, kind of similar like we did, a public meeting for the council, for people and residents to also hear and see on our public access station, as well as YouTube and Facebook that we put it on. So this is really no different than any business having a really solid business plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people can stop in or email me. I'll send you a copy. Probably the most important ones for the public, we try to stay as close as we can to $2 million a year in what we call asphalt overlay. That's where you typically grind up the existing surface and put on another 2 inches. We do a lot of those projects every year, do about a dozen street portions. And then we have a few bigger projects I'll just mention real quickly. The biggest ones we're coming up with in the next few years are East 17th Street over by the fairgrounds. We're going to do a more major improvement there. West 5th Street over by the area between Oak and Chestnut is one of our bigger projects. And Cleveland up between Central and Walnut as well. And there's a portion of Blodgett that we're looking to reconstruct. Reconstructs are harder to do because you dig up everything. You might put in new sewer and water lines. Those are costly projects. And I've said this before, I kind of equate it to tooth repair. If you do the regular cleanings and fillings and stuff, maybe you don't have to go through the root canals or the extractions. And reconstructions are more like the root canals and extractions. They're big projects. We try and buy as much life out of the streets as we can with overlays and other maintenance.
All right. Well, that's great. I think you've done a wonderful job. Thanks to Dan for bringing this up. I think it's going to help in the budget process a lot come fall time. You've really did a lot of homework, and a lot of this will be part of the budget process in the fall. So I love it. I hope to be a part of it down the road. I know I'm new here when I came on, so haven't had a chance to really sit down with you guys in this, but we'll do.
Yeah, and we folded this year, Tom. We folded in vehicles, equipment, financial software, computer software. Those things used to battle it out for space in the budget. Now we can sort through all this in the spring and get it kind of settled in advance where the money's going to go before we get to fall.
Exactly. Well, if you're just joining us, this is our council preview for the May 14th council agenda here. It's Wednesday in May, and I'm sitting here with City Administrator Steve Barg, and we're previewing the council meeting that's going to take place. We'll be back with you here on Channel 991, which we're broadcasting here on Marshfield Media Access. I want to welcome you back to our channel 989 and 990 and 991. Again, this is on 990, and if you guys are seeing that 989 and 990 are down, it's because of maintenance that we're doing with Charter. And our hope is that the signal will be much clearer as soon as we get that back on, and we'll let you guys know as soon as that happens through our communications process. So I'm sitting here with Steve Barg, City Administrator, Council Preview. We're taping this ahead of time, and we're going to go right into the next piece, Wenzel Family Plaza, and that is an awesome piece. When I came here, I'm like, I love it. This is what this community needs. When I worked in Wausau, it was about the 400 block in the 90s. Yep. And really, I think a lot of these communities have and looked at that, and this is where it started.
Oh, I agree, and it was a great vision. I know Jason Angel, who was our Development Services Director at the time, had this thought in mind, and others did too. We need to have a downtown gathering place. And some people, I got to be honest with you, were against it initially. They said, well, gosh, why don't we spend that money on streets? Or, are you going to take away parking spaces from downtown? We need as many parking spaces. And I respect all those concerns, totally. But the idea of bringing people downtown to gather with their friends, hear a concert, have an activity, maybe after that go shopping, go eat at the restaurants downtown, make our downtown better, it's really good. And what you have here in this item is the second year of the Memorandum of Understanding, because this is a four-group process, if you will. The parties are the City of Marshfield, Marshfield Main Street, the Marshfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then the Wenzel Family Plaza Committee, which is kind of a subset of Main Street. And what this document does is it sets up all the rights and responsibilities and expectations of all the groups. It takes a lot of people working together to make this happen. Because, for example, the new coordinator, Nikki, who's already doing a great job, her job is to bring programming, to get the concerts, get the special events and activities down there. But what if you have questions about the maintenance or the parking or the care of the landscaping? Well, that's not Nikki. So what this lays out is what everybody's going to do so that this thing can run as smoothly as possible. But Tom, I couldn't agree with you more. This is an amazing resource for the city. We only had it for 6 months last year. The kickoff was on July 11th, I believe. So the season, we were well into the season. They're prepared right now to start Friday night concerts and other events that are going to bring folks downtown to, like I said, feel good about the community, and like I said, hopefully also check out the downtown stores and shops and restaurants. Yeah,
definitely. It's a win-win situation. That's where the News Herald was, as I'm understanding, right?
Yes, the old News Herald building, and it took some vision to say, look, can we acquire this and tear it down? And it took some money too. And some people can be critical of that. I don't blame them, because we're here to wisely handle the city tax dollars. But I think in the long run, what this is going to do for our community was so worth it.
Oh, definitely. And I'll throw an idea out. I would hope that maybe down the road that there'll be something during lunch, that we all need, us people that work down in the downtown, have a place to maybe go for lunch and gather and talk about what's happening in our own businesses, our own with the city, and I think that would really work well.
It would, and I think you might see more of that. And one thing we didn't talk about was the water feature for the kids. Every day out there, you see little ones as you drive by, and you'll see it again when it warms up beyond today's 45 degrees. But kids out there with their swimsuits on, and the water, pops up, and they jump in it, and you just see the looks on their faces, and the moms and dads who are there with them. You can't really put a price tag on that. It just makes people feel good about Marshfield. And I've said this before, there's way more to economic development than giving free land in your industrial park or something. People want to come to a place, whether they want to work here, start a business here, whatever. What does my family have to do? Oh, the zoo, what else? Well, and this is another addition to the fun things that make people want to call this place home.
Exactly. It's right back to that word experience.
Absolutely. We talked about a lot at that recent meeting, yeah. Especially younger people. They're looking to have an experience that whatever they're doing, it's got something special to it.
Definitely. And I enjoy going to those. I do that a lot. I'm still young at heart, kids, so I'll take part of it. I haven't had a chance to see it, but hopefully we get some warm weather and you guys will be turning it on.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's fun to see. And then just as far as the concert, I mean, it's been a long week. Let's say it's Friday night at 7 o'clock. Hey, hey, honey, let's go down and listen to some music, and just enjoy ourselves a sunny night, or the sun does go down eventually, but a nice warm summer night. It really does make you feel like this is home.
Yeah, great idea. Well, let's talk about Aquatic Center, another recreational piece that we hope we will get down the road. That has to be an agreement with Marshfield Community Foundation.
Yeah, Tom, the Community Foundation has been great with us. The first time we really partnered with them was on the Library and Community Center project. And you say, well, what does the Community Foundation do that would help the city? Well, when people make donations, they need to be housed somewhere and kept and then paid out for expenses. Well, city staff isn't really the place to do that. In fact, a lot of people would probably be hesitant about giving $10,000 to the city. Are they handling it right? Are they, you hear about government sometimes. So the Community Foundation is a nonprofit that has, for several projects now, one at the zoo, most recently with the Wenzel Family Plaza. They've been the keeper, the guardian of the money, and done all the administrative work for us. So we want to do that with them again. So there's a couple-page handout that you have there that talks about how it would be done. And the idea is that there would be a fee charge for their services. So a little bit of the money raised will go to the Community Foundation for their work, but it's reasonable. And this just kind of lays out the terms of it. And what happens? Let's say we don't get to the goal. Now, again, the goal is $3 million from the city, $3 million from the donors, if it works out. The city's match is dollar for dollar. So, for every dollar that somebody donates, we're gonna put in $1 ourselves. Well, then you have to account for what happens if you don't get to $3 million. So all these little I's dotted and T's crossed need to be addressed. But Amber over at the Community Foundation has been great to work with over the years. And I think we've got an agreement here, hopefully, that we can get to the finish line. I know that Justin Casperson, our Park and Recreation Director, is working with Jody Sweeney, our fundraising consultant, and they're just cranked up to start raising the funds. You may remember at a previous meeting, it was addressed whether or not there's a capacity here. I mean, because we've had the YMCA project and all that. Our people tapped out. And Jody Sweeney, our consultant, did some work in town, talked to a lot of community and business leaders, and came to the conclusion that there is an appetite to get this project over the finish line. So I think people are excited. And currently the construction is set for 2020, and we'd like to hold to that if possible.
All right. When you guys decided, or I should say the council decided to match dollar for dollar, well, when was that decided? Was that recently or was that last year?
It goes back a few months. It probably predates you and your time here at the city, but it wasn't all that long ago because the question was coming up about the city's contribution. What if the city said we're going to give $3 million and we only raised $1 million and then we wanted to build a smaller pool or something? Well, it was never intended to be that. It was intended to be 50-50. So the idea was for every dollar we get, we'll give one.
And now, once that's decided, and this is going to take more than a year, does it have to go back into the budget cycle for 2020 again and asked upon to do this, or is that a one-time?
It'll be in the budget for 2020, and this will be borrowed money, obviously, because we don't have $3 million laying around for stuff like this, and we'll go through the normal borrowing process to expend those funds. But I tell you what, there's been a building support for this. I know when I was new, I came on board in 2011. There were some people who said, well, this is important, but what about this? What about the roads? What about whatever? I think as time has passed, this 86-year-old facility, 85-year-old facility has done its time, and I think people are ready for a more new and modern aquatic center.
Yeah, most definitely. 85 years.
It's the it is the oldest municipal pool, I'm told, in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh,
Think about that for a minute.
It has to be. And the money you guys have saved, staff has got to be commended for keeping that going.
They've done a great job.
Wow.
And some people can say, well, you know what, you didn't say it would, you didn't know if it would run this year, it did again, just keep doing that. Well, some year, the pumps and everything are going to go bad. And even more than that, we have people right now driving to Weston, driving to other places because they have nice, modern aquatic facilities. We don't want that, because when they're in Weston, they buy gas in Weston, they buy lunch in Weston, they shop in Weston. We want people to stay here and enjoy the community and spend dollars here.
Yep, and I'm one of those guys. I'm going to be honest, because there is no pool in the central Wisconsin market like that, really, that has that amenities that Weston's had since 1999 or 2000. Wow. I remember photographing it there when I was a news photographer that long ago. And that pool is amazing, and I went to both of them, Rothschild and Weston. So I really hope that our city, and it's going to bring beyond the pool. It's going to bring local businesses here.
It is.
It's going to bring people together. It's going to bring, it's amazing what it'll do. For the little amount, and I'm not saying $3 million is a little amount, but it's going to make a major difference. And I've learned this from talking with other city administrators, mayors throughout state of Wisconsin, beyond, that this is really a good direction for a lot of communities.
It is. The library, besides being a great amenity, made a statement. It made a statement to people, this city is looking to move forward.
Yep.
And I think the pool will do the same thing.
That's great. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about dark stores. I know we could spend a whole half hour on dark stores, but
could.
then we might put them to sleep. But,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and I used to work with a councilman that talked a lot about dark stores, which is someone that knows you. I can't. Mr. Kubishak out of Wisconsin
from
Rapids,
yeah.
and he was in Spencer as our city administrator.
Yep.
But
Yep.
we would talk a lot about dark stores, and but let's talk about this litigation involving Menards and Walmart.
Yeah, and this is a closed session item, so I can't get into the particulars as far as the dollars, the offers, the negotiations. But what's going on here for people who don't know is there's a theory that some of these big boxes have been using, the Menards, Walmarts, those types of people. And the theory is this. They're trying to save money wherever they can. So they're saying, let's say a facility in Community A is valued at $10 million based upon the size and the type of construction. They're paying a lot of tax on it. And they're saying, one of ours closed in La Crosse 5 years ago, and it's sitting vacant. And there it's been valued down to $8 million. So they're trying to compare a vacant store in another community with our store, and they're trying to say, look, Marshfield, you ought to reduce the tax, the assessed value here to $8 million. And we're saying, why? Well, because there's an empty store that's been sitting in La Crosse for 5 years, and I'm making up La Crosse, but they're sitting here, and we're comparing apples to this. And we're saying, no, you're comparing apples to oranges. This is an operating store in good shape, maintained. Today there's people working there and shopping there. That's not apples to apples. So what we have going on right now is they've challenged our taxes. Both of them, Walmart and Menards, are looking to pay less taxes. And we're not actually in court yet. We're negotiating. And they're saying, well, look, what if we come up a little bit and you come down a little bit, and to see if we can avert going to court. But I'll be honest with you, the city is very serious about this, because all we do if we give a tax reduction to somebody is we increase the amount that others need to pay to cover it, unless we're going to cut programs and services. So what's happening in Wisconsin over time by these kind of things and other things is the burden is continuing to shift to residential property owners. And that's not sustainable in the long haul. So I've got nothing against Menards and Walmart. I shop there. I like their products and services. But we believe that this is a fairness issue. And so we're still working on it. Not sure what we're going to come up with a resolution. Nobody wants to go to court and lose. That's not a good thing. But we're trying to assert to the best degree we can that we want to get a fair tax value and fair taxes paid by all of our business, including the big boxes.
All right. Well, that was a good explanation of that, and I'll invite you later sometime and talk a little bit more about dark stores. I have an interest in it as well, and I hope you guys do as well. It's a big part. We wouldn't be probably even partially sitting here or doing what we want to do without taxes. And we're not trying to out tax. It's just what provides these services that you see. Pool, you've got to pay the staff there. That's how this works. And,
Absolutely.
I know things are changing, and we'll look at new ways of revenue. I'm sure that's down the road. But, at this point, that's how we will make the city grow.
Yeah, and our conversations in these mediation sessions, they're not adversarial. I mean, I respect the argument. I can see why somebody would like to make a lower tax payment and maybe believes that their building is valued at less. But we just disagree with them. And it's all about whether or not this is a valid argument. And cities across Wisconsin are arguing that it's not.
Yeah. Well, we have a few more things I would like to talk about. RFP, have you guys ever heard that word, RFP? Oh, well, that means request for proposals. That's even still an odd name to you guys, and I get that. And I even asked that once when I started working in the city government here in 2011. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. So explain a little bit. It's on our agenda for banking services.
And my main reason for wanting to touch on it in this program, Tom, is so people know that we're looking for the best deals. Some people think that government is just, you do the same old thing year after year, decade after decade. Well, we've been with Citizen State Bank of Loyal for 5 years. They handle our banking services. Good bank. They've done well by us. But the 5 years are up on the contract, and we want to go and see what else is out there, see if there's a better mousetrap, as they used to say. Mm-hmm. And so we've sent out some, I believe we're in the process of doing this, getting proposals from various firms and seeing what the council thinks about it. And, you look at the fees. You look at the minimum balance as required, same as you might do at your home when you have your own personal accounts, and trying to see if we save the most money for the city and have the best services. So my main point in wanting to talk about it today is we do this for assessing, for auditing, for banking, for economic development services, we are always looking to see if there's somebody who can do a better job or a more cost-effective job, because it's tax dollars. These monies are being paid for by those of us, those people looking at the program today. So I just want them to know that we're not just doing same old, same old. We're trying to save a buck where we can and get good deals.
Is that usually for something that's over a certain amount, an RFP, like 10, 20 grand, or is it does not matter?
Usually they're well more than that. RFPs are not required. We could theoretically have the same auditor or the same bank forever, I think. State law doesn't say that you have to do, but what it is just our way of saying, and it's not the same for everything. It might be 5 years for banking, it might be some other number of years for audit services or assessing services, but that we want to find out what the best services are. I don't think we bid it out if it was like a $2,000 cost, but things like banking, assessing, auditing, I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars involved and more. I mean, our banks handle, millions of dollars for the city and invest them and pay us, some returns. So this is worth checking around, and that's what we want to do.
All right. So from time to time, you may see things on the council agenda that are RFPs, not banking, because this is just one of the topics. I guess, for example, we drive by roads and we see somebody fixing the roads that's not our department, like concrete or something. That's probably an RFP, right?
It could be an actual what's called a bid. Now, when you do certain major street work, you take bids, and you're really obligated to take the low bidder. So if company A bids $1 million, company B bids $1.2 million, you've really got to take company A unless you can demonstrate that they aren't qualified to do the work. They've done poorly on previous projects in ways that can be documented or whatever. When you do an RFP, we could get, let's say we do an RFP for assessing services, and we have one company that bids one price, one that bids $5,000 more, one that bids $10,000 more. We can actually pick the one that picks that's $10,000 more if we look at it and we say, you know what, in the long haul, they provide better services. They're going to be here more often. They're going to be doing more of the work themselves instead of city staff. So we're not bound to take the low proposal, but in contract bidding for street work, we're usually bound to take that low bidder.
All right. Well, I'm sitting here learning stuff just as much as you. I think that's great and helps me out. Hopefully helps you guys out understand that. When you're watching our council meetings, or please come down to the council chambers. We'd love to have you there. We'd love to fill the place. We really want people to be engaged in our community. It's going to make us a better place to live, work, and play. Last thing on the agenda that you circled, there's more things on the agenda. You can get those on our website once it's posted. This is still a pre-agenda. It usually gets there by Friday, maybe Thursday. Go to our website, ci.marshfield.wi.us. I know I said that fast, but go there, and that's where the RFPs are as well. It's my job as communications person to make sure you guys can find that information as well, and that's a plan of mine as I get more involved in the process of city communications. But we need to get our public access working just smoothly as possible before we go into another step. So last thing, payroll resolution there. It's called a city compensation. All of us, myself, I don't know about you, are in a compensation scale.
We are. We had a company called McGrath out of Northern Illinois do a compensation study for us a couple of years ago, and they made some recommendations which we adopted, and everyone has a pay grade, and within that you have certain steps you move through as you progress and have successful performance reviews. But we did one about maybe 6 or 7 years ago when I was fairly new with another company called Carlson Detman, and because of some tight finances and stuff like that, we didn't follow through the way we should. So then you do it and you're all excited, and then you look 3 or 4 years back and you say, we've lost a little ground. Let's get somebody else in new here to look at the jobs, the duties, responsibilities, the education required, grade every job, put it in the place where it belongs on the scale. But then we want to make sure every year that we're doing everything we can to keep it up. We don't want to wake up in 2021 and say, boy, we've drifted behind again. You're making a lot less than if you worked in Point or Rapids. Mm-hmm. Because that's really a losing proposition. You spend a lot of money. We spent $20,000 to do this study, Tom. You want to then implement it fully and keep it up. So the proposal here is for a 2.5% increase. I mean, that's what was budgeted for city employees. We had a number of years before that where we really were getting much less increases. So we're trying to catch up a little bit, and that's the plan. And then, of course, there's steps that employees can get if they're still moving through the process. But the goal here is to just make sure that we are treating our employees fairly. The tendency is to say, well, gosh, we have a lot of park needs. We have a lot of road needs. We have a lot of, and carve out every dollar you can, and then you wake up and you see people saying, boy, I mean, I feel like I could make more money over here or over there. We have great employees, and they're dedicated to the city of Marshfield, but we want to make sure that we're compensating them fairly for what they do. So this may not seem as important to citizens as, Wenzel Family Plaza or those kind of things, but it really is, because we need a good workforce to do the jobs.
Most definitely, your workforce is your main asset.
It really is.
You don't have workers and good workers to provide the products that we do, then all those products will never succeed. You're wasting your money.
And people will sometimes look at our budget, Tom, and they'll say, boy, your payroll as a percentage of your budget is high. It's way too high. Well, they're comparing it to like an industrial operation where people make a product. Our product is these people. It's the building inspector coming to your house to inspect the new addition to your home. It's the police officer out there coming to the call. That is what we do. So the fact that we have a higher percentage of payroll than ABC company is not surprising.
Exactly. And today's world is changed from 5 years, 10 years, drastically. Right now, our baby boomers are retiring. There's a lot of competition out there to get employees. It's not uncommon probably to see 100 people apply for one job.
Right.
And so, you need to be competitive to get the people that are going to do a good job and are qualified too. So, and that's where our HR and our leadership team comes in to help with that. So I think it's a great plan for our city. I don't think it's 50,000 or whatever you said. I don't remember with McGrath. Sorry.
It was 20,000.
20,000 is a waste. I think
it's a good plan.
Something that we can use and help us out. So, well, that was your last, I think, item on the agenda. Is there anything else that you want to go through?
As always, there's some other items. There's some ordinances about people getting their property rezoned and some other things. But I think we covered the main things. And sometimes I wish I could talk more about closed session. Today was a rare instance where I even said anything about a closed session item. But I just wanted people in the broad sense to understand, because I'm sure some people have heard this dark store thing and they think, is this a store where people just turn the lights off or what's going on? No, it's a store that's been is no longer being used and has been used for comparison purposes. But, as action occurs, Tom, on these closed session items, and I can release more, I'll look forward to doing that with you.
Definitely. And we have our news conference that takes place after our council meetings. Some of that information may come out at that time. We do have a scheduled time to play in those several times throughout the day on our channel 991, as well as putting it on our Facebook page of Marshfield Media Access and shared to the city's page. So if you're wanting to follow that along, please look into that at about like on a Friday. That takes place on a Wednesday, day after council. Next week, May 15th, will be our conference with Steve Barg, as well as maybe a city person if needed, department head, I should say, and the mayor, Mayor McManus. So, well, thanks again for coming, council preview, and telling us all about it. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Good to be here.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching us on council preview. This edition for our May 14th agenda for the Common Council starts at 6 p.m. Please tune in to channel 991. If you're not able to join us there, you're more than welcome. We have council comment period, which I think is a great piece. Please come with any of the questions. It's not what's on the agenda. This is a chance to speak in front of your council, mayor, and city staff to get something out that might make things better for you and in our community. So I'll leave it as that. I'm Tom Laux, Marshfield's Communications Director.